Picture this. You step into a packed mall, a noisy subway, or a tightly crowded event, and suddenly your whole body goes on high alert. Your breath shortens, your senses sharpen, and that familiar crowded place's anxiety creeps in like a shadow you didn't invite. It feels irrational, almost embarrassing. But here's the twist. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, overstimulation psychology reveals a hidden mechanism most people never even notice, one that quietly controls why crowded spaces steal your peace. People often blame themselves, thinking they're too emotional, socially awkward, or just introverted. But the truth is far more interesting. What feels like nervousness or emotional overwhelm is actually your brain's finely tuned sensitivity, something tied to HSP psychology, sensory overload symptoms, and the unique wiring of people who hate crowds. And instead of being a flaw, this nervous system sensitivity is a rare advantage disguised as discomfort. So stick with me, because in the next few minutes you'll understand why crowds drain energy, why social exhaustion hits you faster than others, and why your overstimulated brain reacts the way it does. More importantly, you'll learn how to reclaim control in noisy environments and finally stop blaming yourself for feeling the way you do. And trust me, once you see the deeper truth behind why crowds stress you out, things will never feel the same again. Crowded spaces tend to hit a person all at once, almost like stepping into a room where every sound, movement, and emotion tries to squeeze into their mind at the same time. The moment they enter a busy street or a packed store, the overstimulation psychology kicks in before they can even name what's happening. Their brain starts scanning faces, noises, lights, fast. This is where crowded places' anxiety blends with emotional overwhelm, creating that strange sense of too much all at once. And if they're honest, it feels less like inconvenience and more like survival mode. Many don't realize that what they call introvert problems or social exhaustion is actually their nervous system sensitivity working overtime. Think of someone walking through a festival, music thumping, people brushing past, voices layered on top of each other. Their overstimulated brain begins firing signals faster than they can process. That's why crowds drain energy, not because they're weak, but because their perception is sharp, wide, and constantly absorbing. A highly sensitive person traits profile describes this perfectly, even though most people have never heard the term. This is also why people who hate crowds often struggle to explain the feeling to others. They might say, "I don't know, it's just stressful," but inside it's more like sensory overload symptoms stacking up minute by minute. The anxiety in crowded spaces isn't dramatic, it's automatic. And for an introvert in crowds, it's almost like trying to hear their own thoughts in a room full of megaphones. But beneath all this discomfort lies a psychological mechanism most people don't understand yet. The psychological explanation. What most people don't realize is that the brain isn't built to process unlimited stimuli at once. In crowded places, the human nervous system goes into what psychologists call high-load processing, which is just a fancy way of saying your senses get flooded. This is why crowded places' anxiety spikes even when nothing bad is happening. The overstimulated brain is simply trying to protect you by filtering threats. But in a crowd, everything looks like a potential threat. So the mind starts working overtime before you even know it's happening. For highly sensitive person traits, or those with HSP psychology, this filter is even thinner. Their attention picks up micro-expressions, sudden noises, shifting body language, all the stuff others ignore without effort. That's why overstimulation psychology explains why crowds drain energy so fast for some people. Their system is doing the work of 3 brains at once. It isn't social weakness, it's an advanced sensory radar that just hasn't learned how to dial itself down in public environments. Think of it as a high-performance engine stuck in traffic. This also explains why social exhaustion hits quicker in groups and why introvert problems become more obvious in noisy places. The nervous system sensitivity acts like a microphone turned up too high, catching every detail but overwhelming the user. It's the same reason people often feel emotional overwhelm in malls, concerts, or even family gatherings. And the deeper truth is this: the very thing that stresses them out is tied to a set of hidden strengths most people never tap into, which we'll explore in the next part. Positive reinterpretation, turning sensitivity into superpower. He's not bad at crowds, he's exquisitely tuned. The same nervous system sensitivity that fuels anxiety in crowded spaces also enables rapid pattern recognition. He notices tension before a conflict, hears nuance in tone, and senses mood shifts others miss. That's why people who hate crowds often make great strategists, counselors, creators. The truth behind why crowds drain energy is the same truth behind brilliant intuition. If social exhaustion keeps ambushing him, he can treat it like an energy budget, not a moral failure. Before a packed event, he plans a 10-minute sensory reset. Step outside, breathe slowly for 4 counts, exhale for 6, then scan the horizon to calm an overstimulated brain. He uses earplugs, tinted glasses, or a brimmed hat to cut overstimulation in public. He builds anchor spots, quiet corners, stairwells, empty hallways. Small tweaks, lower crowded places, stress without hiding from life. And he can lean into strengths. Highly sensitive person traits often include deep empathy, creative insight, and long focused thinking. Gold for design, writing, therapy, product strategy. Actionable moves. Choose roles with maker time, negotiate quiet hours, batch meetings, and swap crowded stand-ups for async check-ins. For learning, he reads Quiet, Susan Cain. For introvert problems, The Highly Sensitive Person, Elaine Aron. For HSP psychology, and Deep Work, Cal Newport. For social fatigue psychology. These upgrades set the stage for a deeper root cause he hasn't considered yet. The deeper reason. Here's the layer most people miss. His biology isn't misfiring. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. In dense groups, ancient circuitry flags, social anxiety triggers, because unknown faces once meant uncertain safety. The amygdala ramps vigilance, dopamine chases novelty, and cortisol preps the body. Classic overstimulation psychology in action. That cocktail explains crowded places' stress even when nothing's wrong. But here's the part most people never realize. A sharper radar simply pings more signals. Zoom in on the overstimulated brain, and you'll see predictive coding at work. The mind keeps guessing what's next to stay safe. In anxiety in crowded spaces, there are too many moving parts, so prediction errors spike and tension rises. Mirror neurons echo every nearby emotion, amplifying emotional overwhelm like a chorus. Anthropologically, he's built for Dunbar-sized circles, not stadiums, hence why crowds drain energy fast. This doesn't label him fragile, it labels him accurate. Neurochemically, relief comes from restoring signal to noise. That's why introverts need quiet. Fewer stimuli, cleaner predictions, steadier mood. He can prime his nervous system sensitivity before events, hydration, protein, magnesium-rich foods, and cap it with rhythm. Slow walking, paced breathing, longer exhales. These reduce sensory overload symptoms without numbing his strengths. Now that he understands why, the next question is how to engineer his environment and habits, so crowded places anxiety stops running the show. And that's where the practical playbook begins. He's starting to see it. The very signals that once felt like flaws are actually guides. When crowded places anxiety shows up, he treats it like a dashboard light, useful data, not doom. He plans routes with quiet pockets, keeps a notes app list of low-sensory cafes, and chooses off-peak hours to dodge overstimulation in public. He learns the rhythm that prevents social exhaustion before it flares. And just like that, why crowds drain energy becomes a solvable puzzle, not a personal failure. He experiments with micro-habits, 90-second box breathing before entering a venue, a 3-item focus list to tame an overstimulated brain, and a 5-sense reset. Name one thing you see, hear, feel, smell, taste. Earplugs lower crowded places stress. Blue light glasses soften sensory overload symptoms. For self-education, he taps Quiet, The Highly Sensitive Person, and Deep Work, a trilogy that reframes introvert problems and HSP psychology as strengths. The more he tweaks, the more his nervous system sensitivity becomes an ally. Community matters too. He shares what works in the comments, best recovery routines, social anxiety triggers to watch for, tips for people who hate crowds, and why introverts need quiet after events. He's not alone, he's early. That's the mindset shift that changes everything, turning emotional overwhelm into intentional living. And there's one more step to seal the shift and protect his peace in any environment. He's not broken, he's brilliantly wired. Now it's time to use that insight. This week he sets up a sensory budget. Pick 2 high-energy events max, schedule a 20-minute decompression walk afterward, and block 1 hour of deep quiet the next morning. He posts a sticky note with his top 3 rescue moves for anxiety in crowded spaces: earplugs, slow exhale, step outside, and practices them until they're automatic. Ready for a bold experiment? What would change if he treated social fatigue psychology like training, not fate? If he stopped apologizing for nervous system sensitivity and started designing for it? Which tiny habit will he test first to dial down overstimulation psychology, route planning, recovery blocks, or the 5 cents reset? Drop a comment. What's your #1 trigger in crowded spaces, and which tactic are you trying this week? Let's compare notes and upgrade the playbook together. If this hit home, if it finally explains why crowds stress me out and why crowds drain energy, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you'll keep learning practical tools for the overstimulated brain, the introvert in crowds, and the highly sensitive person traits you're learning to leverage.